One Detroit is on the road as we look at Michigan's economic future at the Business Leaders for Michigan CEO Summit. Plus, the election is days away. We'll have an in-depth report on the Attorney General race, where the candidates stand, and the rise of power among AGs across the country. Nolan, Finley, and Stephen Henderson will join me. I'm Christy McDonald. One Detroit is coming up.
MASCO Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. MASCO and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
I have a question. Who wants to go first? To win? Who wants to grow our business? Who wants to make more money? Who wants more job opportunities? If you want Michigan to compete and become a top 10 state, raise your hand. Together, we've turned Michigan around and started moving forward. Now help us build a stronger Michigan than ever. Raise your hand at strongermichigan.com.
Support also provided by the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, Detroit Journalism Engagement Fund, and the Bill and Shirlee Fox Fund for Leadership and Public Affairs Programming at Detroit Public TV.
Hi there, and welcome to One Detroit. We're at Cobo, downtown, as Business Leaders for Michigan put on their yearly CEO Summit. We have a lot coming up for you. We're going to take a look at the state economy and what the heads of major companies are concerned about. Plus, we will have some politics for you. We're just days away from the election, and we have an in-depth report on the Attorney General race, what sets Tom Leonard and Dana Nessel apart, and the powerful roles attorneys general are taking on nationwide. Plus, a last-minute write-in challenge in the 13th Congressional District, and I go one-on-one with Bill Schuette and Gretchen Whitmer this week. You can bet Nolan and Stephen will have a lot to say about all of that coming up. But we are going to start off with the state of Michigan's economy. Recently, Business Leaders for Michigan came out with their quarterly survey, and 37% of CEO and presidents of Michigan companies expect an economic decline in the state in the next 18 months. Just last quarter, only 6% of those CEOs expected decline. I talked with Doug Rothwell, he's the CEO of Business Leaders for Michigan, about the uncertainty and the changing factors. Doug, let's talk about that survey where you saw a significant change in the number of CEOs that are concerned about an economic downturn in the next 18 months here in Michigan. What were some of the factors and the thought behind that?
Well, I think most of it's around the election, Christy. I mean, I think people were concerned about what's going to happen nationally, but also here in Michigan. I mean, it's a lot of change all at once, and you know, business hates uncertainty, right? And so I think until that we get that behind us, but you know, you also have the tariffs and some of the larger policies that the Trump administration has put in place, that some of which are working, some of which they're concerned about. But I think it's generally the uncertainty with the election that's the big issue.
You know, you have these leaders of companies who are also employing people who may feel that they've just recovered salary-wise, or they may just feel like they've recovered from the last recession. But here we go looking, forecasting that something could be coming on the horizon then. How do they balance being able to move forward with business, but kind of still looking to the side saying, we might need to coast for a minute?
Well, you know, we've been talking for a number of years now about how this recovery has been one of the longest recoveries on record. I mean, we're up to like almost 9 or 10 years now, so I think people are hedging their bets a little bit, but you know, it's all relative. I mean, even here in the North American market, the auto sales are still projected to be next year around 17 million. Well, we would have thought that is a terrific year in most years. So I think, you know, we should be cautious about this, but at the same time realize that we're still on pretty firm ground given where we've been in the past.
One of the things that you and I have talked about over a number of years is talent and growth of talent here in Michigan, and the fact that companies trying to retain that talent and get that talent to fill the holes that they have in their companies. What are CEOs telling you about? Has that changed at all? Is it easier for them to fill those jobs?
No, it's just getting harder. I mean, I think, you know, in Michigan it's particularly a problem because we're getting older as a state, demographically we are, and the other problem is we're not growing population-wise. So, I mean, if you were in a state like Texas that's getting a lot of in-migration, it's easier for you to meet your talent needs because people are just coming over the border. Here, we have people that are, you know, we just have a stagnant population. So in our view, we think one of the biggest things we've got to focus on is population growth. And until we really get that going, it's going to continue to be a talent shortage here in our state.
What do you think are some of the key factors, though, to population growth and getting people to come here to Michigan to stay here and to invest here?
You got to have industries and jobs that people want to be in. I mean, it becomes as simple as that. I mean, I think one of the things that we suffered from for a long time was that the auto industry didn't have a really good image, and so people thought of Michigan as this old line manufacturing state. We know that's not true. We know that automotive's on the forefront of all the technology changes, but I think that it's going to take a while to get that message out there. It's starting. We're seeing it here in Detroit. Look at the number of young people that want to be in Detroit these days. But that's what you got to have, is you got to have the kind of jobs and the kind of sectors that people feel are growth opportunities for the long-term future.
So Business Leaders for Michigan has said we want to be a top 10 state. What are some of the things that has to happen for us to become a top 10 state when you're looking around the rest of the country?
Yep. Well, with this election that we have coming up, let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. I mean, there's some great things that have been done these last 8 years, especially with fiscal policy. Let's keep on that track and make sure that we're managing our money well. We've got to make some investments. I mean, the way we're paying for our roads right now, it's an embarrassment. Why would people want to invest in us if we can't invest in ourselves? So we've got to fix that problem. But then the last is what we just talked about, is let's make sure that we really take advantage of some of the assets we have to grow jobs in places and areas that young people particularly are going to find attractive. So the work we're doing to try to grow the mobility industry, critically important. There's a couple others we could work on as well.
Let's talk a little bit about education before we wrap up here, and the push to change our K-12 system or be able to invest a little bit more in some different places. Where are you finding that CEOs are standing on that in their ability to get involved in the education question in Michigan?
Well, that's a big question because it's a very complicated system. I mean, one of the things we find in Michigan is that K-12 has got more units of the K-12 system than most states do, and our performance is not really where we want it to be. We're an average spending state, below average results. We got a big player to get Launch Michigan started, which is this coalition to try to change all that, the trajectory of education, but it's going to take a while, Christy, and I think that what I would say to people is that the good news is there's a lot of interest in making it happen. There's an organization in place now to make it happen, but we shouldn't expect results overnight.
All right, and we're going to continue to watch that. It's good to see you, Doug.
Good to
Thanks
see
so
you
much
too.
for joining us.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, let's bring in Nolan Finley of the Detroit News and Stephen Henderson of WDET. Hey guys, it's always good to see you.
Good to be here.
Hanging out here at Cobo, and it's really interesting. You have most of the leaders in the state of businesses that can make some serious decisions, and they are looking at what could possibly be happening to the state economy in the next couple of months or year or so. Anyway, what should they be concerned about, Nolan?
Well, there's internal factors and external factors. Internally, we are seeing a softening of the auto market. Sales are flattening. Some are declining. The latest reports weren't great. So I think a lot depends on the skill of the big three to manage a downturn. They haven't been so great at that in the past. So if they can keep this flattening from becoming an outright plunge in sales, I think Michigan will be okay. External factors are what's going on in Washington with the tariffs. I mean, the tax cuts helped Michigan, helped the auto companies, and then that benefit was taken away with these steel tariffs and other tariffs on Michigan agricultural products that are going to slow down the economy. Everybody knows they'll slow down the economy. For how long is the question?
Yeah, the other thing, the other internal factor, of course, is the change in leadership in Lansing. Whether you're in favor of who wins or against who wins, change is instability, and that's the thing that business reacts to more than anything else. We don't know what the new governor will do or not do, what they will be able to do with the legislature they have, and so if you're a business person, you're still sort of waiting to see how that all turns out.
And I think really taking a look at how everyone perceives Michigan in the rest of the country as well. So if you have a change of leadership and they start to work on education in a different way, or they bring more incentives to get businesses to come here to Michigan, those are a lot of different factors that are in play, Nolan.
I don't think you're going to see more incentives. I think what businesses will be looking for is that there's no fallback. From a business perspective, gridlock would be good, because the tax and regulatory structure, they're where they need to be right now. You just don't want to give anything back. Education, Michigan has struggled with that. It's going to continue to be a problem. Training workers for the jobs companies want to bring here continues to be a problem. It seems to defy all efforts to fix it, although I do think we're making some progress in that area.
Yeah, it's a retention of students who are here as well, so we're not losing that brain drain, but also making sure that we do have the talent to fill the jobs. And that is one of the things that I was talking to a couple of CEOs about, that they're concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, businesses are always looking at the tax structure, the regulatory structure, but they also are looking at talent and talent development and retention, in which we're terrible at here in the state of Michigan right now. I mean, we're really behind what other states are able to do. We're also behind in terms of how our public school system aligns with the goals of creating that talent pool and giving people opportunity. They're going to be looking at how the new governor goes at those things, and they're not unrelated. The tax structure is the way it is, while we're starving infrastructure and schools and all of these things that feed into this development of talent. You got to balance it somehow. The new governor is going to have to figure out where money comes from to do those things, and some of it may have to come from business.
Well, election 2018 is just days away. We've debated the proposals, we've looked at many of the races, but now we're going in depth on the battle for Attorney General. It's an important office, and we're seeing the role of Attorney General becoming even more powerful with the ability to weigh in on pivotal national issues. Candidates Tom Leonard and Dana Nessel are very different, and the number of ads and money put into this race puts in perspective what's at stake.
Oh yeah, so the Tri-County Citizen, was that there when you were? Okay.
It's a last-minute push to sway voters in a competitive and pivotal race for Attorney General in Michigan. Tom Leonard, Republican Speaker of the State House, a conservative and Trump supporter, plans on championing mental health issues, elder care, and expanding the Public Integrity Unit.
Is that I will be a rule of law Attorney General that will enforce the laws. And even if there is a law that may contradict where I am at politically or philosophically, that law will still be defended.
Thank you, everybody.
His opponent, Democrat Dana Nessel, is an activist attorney who gained notoriety fighting Michigan's gay marriage ban and winning. She's campaigning on water quality, affordable health care, and consumer protections.
I want a government that actually cares about the people in this state again and wants to do things to help them.
Nessel has also been quoted as saying she'll sue the Trump administration all day, every day.
Is that an accurate assessment?
Well, what I will say is this. I certainly am somebody who's willing to hold the federal government accountable if they're engaging in acts that hurt the residents of this state.
And it's that emerging power of attorneys general nationwide to challenge the current administration's policies that has put more focus on races this November.
Michigan is one of 30 Attorney General races on the ballot this November. It's one of 8 competitive races being closely watched. Right now, there are 27 Republican Attorneys General, 22 Democrats, with one appointed by an independent governor. And if Democrats can change the numbers, we could see increased legal challenges.
Thank you guys so much. Okay, we'll see.
So they don't need permission of Congress to bring these lawsuits, and they don't even need the permission of the governor in most states in which AGs are independently elected. So they have a lot of discretion to bring the sort of lawsuits that they want to bring.
Paul Nolan is a professor at Marquette University in Milwaukee and author of Federalism on Trial, a study of the rising political activism of state attorneys general. Nolan says the 90s and tobacco litigation signaled the beginning of attorneys general coordinating efforts to take on national issues.
The AGs successfully concluded the largest civil settlement in U.S. history in 1998, and ever since then, they've really taken it upon themselves to play a much bigger role in national politics.
Now he sees coalitions breaking down along party lines. Earlier this year, 20 Republican attorneys general banded together in the latest round of lawsuits against the Affordable Care Act. In June, 18 Democratic attorneys general sued over family separations at the border.
They're getting involved in highly controversial issues of Obamacare and environmental politics and climate change and transgender rights. I think it's inevitable that every AG of both parties are going to come into their job with certain views about how their office should approach these issues.
Here in Michigan, Susan Reed is the lead attorney for the Michigan Immigrant Rights Center in Kalamazoo. She's watching the state attorney general race closely, knowing it could directly impact the lives of her clients.
The thing that has changed the most, there's so much litigation about the way immigration policy is developing now. And so attorneys general are in positions to bring high-profile lawsuits with states having standing to challenge the policies. It certainly was huge setback during the Obama administration that we were not able to proceed with the Deferred Action for Parents of Americans program. It would have made such a difference in the lives of our clients.
Leonard is cautious about the state attorney general role in immigration.
Well, so much of immigration is based on federal law. The Supreme Court has made very, very clear that that is the case. Certainly the Attorney General can be a strong advocate when they believe things are going wrong.
Nessel takes a different view.
Yet we have an Attorney General that is not very much in tune with the needs of the Arab American community, and certainly did not join in the travel ban lawsuit in defense of some of the immigrant communities that were involved in that. And what I will say is this: I plan to do everything I possibly can to fully support and defend the rights of all communities in this state.
Michigan's had a Republican attorney general for the last 8 years. The issues the next attorney general will have to face statewide: litigation from the Flint water crisis, the opioid epidemic, LGBTQ, and women's reproductive rights. Voters will have to decide which candidate will use their best discretion on what fights to join or sit out.
I intend to utilize this office in a way where it helps everyone around this state, and really have an office of Attorney General that just gives a damn about the people who live here again.
I'm not just going to pick and choose which laws will and will not be upheld. I'm not going to choose them based on my political bias. That is not the role of the Attorney General nor that office, and that is a big distinction between me and my opponent.
Now, a shorter version of that story that we did on the Attorney General race aired on the PBS NewsHour earlier this week. And I think it was really interesting in doing this story and looking at the wider view that a lot of attorneys general are taking, and that this is an important office that maybe sometimes voters don't put a lot of stock into because it's a little bit down the ticket, Nolan.
Well, and that's right. It is an important office, and it matters who is in it. One of the reasons you have now this flurry of support flowing in for Tom Leonard, the Republican candidate, from the business community, from the Republican Party, is they understand the importance of holding that seat, and they're scared to death of Dana Nessel. I mean, she said she's going to spend her time suing Donald Trump, suing corporations. That's not a good image for the state to project when you have an activist attorney general. And so they see that as a must-win seat if they hope to keep the forward progress of Michigan going. Unfortunately, they're standing a candidate who's not all that dynamic in Tom Leonard.
But wouldn't you say that many attorneys general have become activist attorneys?
I was going to say, we have an activist attorney general right now. His name is Bill Schuette. He has done innumerable damage or immeasurable damage.
But he's been active on his own.
Well, he's been active on his own
to serve his
ideological hobby horses,
to
right?
serve his own political agenda.
What the business community likes about Bill Schuette is that he doesn't hold them accountable for the things that they do that harm Michigan citizens. He's backed way off of the regulatory side of that office. Dana Nessel would enliven that. Again, it would be more like what we had when Jennifer Granholm was Attorney General, or Frank Kelly before her. These are choices that voters make.
I don't think she'll be as rational as either of those two. I think you've got an activist seeking this office. She'll be a social activist, political activist. I don't know that serves the interest of Michigan taxpayers well.
Why not?
Well, because, I mean,
on behalf of the
if you're driving away jobs, if you're sending a message that Michigan is no longer a friendly environment to create jobs, we've been there. And we know what that produces.
So
social activism on the part of taxpayers are making it a place more hospitable to certain people.
Let's make this very specific. The ongoing controversy over PFAS, this environmental pollution, that's what it is, that companies are putting into the water. The current administration and Bill Schuette are not interested in seeking ways to hold those companies accountable for that.
Well, and that's
Dana
not exactly
now,
true.
Will
the governor
she go
has come out with a very
Will she go too far is the question, but
that.
she will certainly do far more than either of them has been interested in doing, and that is on behalf of people who
far
drink
left
the water.
agenda. That's not good.
Let me hang on one second. Let me ask you this: Is Tom Leonard the best? Is he the best person for this job?
Of the two, he is. He absolutely is, because I think he will not allow his own personal agenda, his own personal politics to drive his decision making. That's the attorney for the whole state of Michigan. And you can't be
what evidence do
overly
you have
partisan.
that Leonard would not do that?
You can't be overly partisan, and you can't
No,
be
you can't be overly partisan,
engaged in activism.
But can you actually say, is it possible to not let your personal politics or your conservatism not play a role in some of the decisions?
It
that you
always
make?
comes in, but
Tom Leonard has no record of that.
if you're mission driven here on the part of a far left political agenda, I don't see how that helps Michigan taxpayers.
Well,
I think what you're looking at is
I don't
now
see how
that
it
helps keep Michigan an
How does
open and friendly state.
People
So
would
how does
consider
it-
him far right.
Yeah,
and
he's
people would
far right.
consider
He's
her
so
far
far
left.
right.
This is a divided state. You shouldn't be operating too far left. I haven't seen anything about Tom Leonard to suggest that he's going to use the office to focus on a political agenda.
But what's the basis for that conclusion? This is a guy who's been one of the most partisan actors in state government since he joined state government. Before that, this is somebody who had no relevant experience to this
He's been
job.
a prosecutor. He's been an assistant attorney general. He understands.
This is a management job.
He understands the limits of the office, and he also understands what the office should be for. First and foremost, he's the attorney for the people of the state of Michigan, not just the people on the far left of the state.
Let me ask this. So we're looking at a ticket here, and we always say coming from the top in terms of voter turnout and whatnot. If Bill Schuette has a problem at the top there, will that not trickle down for the rest of the ticket?
It always does. I think it's going to be a bad year for the top of the ticket, but I think that's why you're seeing trying to staunch the bleeding with this office and with the state senate. They're pouring
I
a
would
lot of
say
money
that,
into state
I
senate
would say that's going to
races.
play out differently this year because there is no straight ticket voting. You have to make a decision on each office, and I think people will take more time, and you will see more split ticket behavior than you normally do because people have people have that option who
But that's not
didn't
showing
before.
up in the polls, Steve. Right
I know
now,
it's
every
not.
race is about the same margin.
Yeah.
So
All right.
you might as well have straight
Speaking
ticket
of the race
voting.
and speaking about the top of the ticket, I moderated Detroit Econ Club meeting between Gretchen Whitmer and Bill Schuette. They actually spoke separately, not together in the same stage. We've heard now that Bill Schuette is pulling out a lot of his advertising money and just concentrating it in the city of Detroit, pulling it from the outstate. Give me a snapshot of where you see this race right now, Stephen.
I think this race will end up looking like the race in 2014 between Rick Snyder and Mark Schauer in terms of the margin, 3.5, 4 points. I think that's too much for Bill Schuette to overcome at this point. It probably wasn't a month ago, but I'm not sure it was even that close then. I think he's pulling out because it's too much. It's too much to overcome at the last minute. But I don't think this will be a blowout. I'm not sure that any of the statewide races will be. If any of them are, I think it could be Debbie Stabenow who blows out John James. But
what
do you think, Nolan, in terms of looking at the governor's
I think it
race?
depends on how much Democrats have improved their ground game, their get out the vote game, which has never been very good here. Republicans have done very well in that. I think it's going to be, my feeling is this is going to be a not such a close election. I think Republicans are going to be hurt all down the ticket. They may hang on to, Bishop may hang on to his seat, but it'll be very narrow. I would think it's going to be a 6, 7, even an 8% election at the top of the ticket.
Ooh, that's going to be interesting to watch. And
I mean, that's a
interesting,
blowout.
and
We haven't
Well, it
seen
is a
that in a
blowout.
while, yeah.
Well, not since the Engler years, right?
Right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, well, one more interesting thing to watch in the 13th Congressional District. Brenda Jones decided that she's going to be a write-in candidate, which seemed to be confusing for everyone involved.
Yeah.
What was the wisdom behind this, Nolan?
Well, there's no wisdom.
Well,
There's absolutely no wisdom.
I don't think that's
If you're going to run a write-in candidate, you need to do that on day one. A week is probably not enough time to let 700,000 voters know, or 500,000 voters know that you're in the race.
Well,
It's just
actually what this
foolishness.
is, so if you want your votes to count, your write-in votes to count, you have to declare that you are a write-in candidate. So if I write in Mickey Mouse, but Mickey Mouse hadn't said he's a write-in candidate for the job,
They've got to
my
throw it
vote
out.
does not count.
Right.
And so this way, if people decide that she's the person they want over Rashida Tlaib or the Republican who's on the ballot, then they can do it. I think this also reflects, though, just how disappointed Brenda is in the election outcome. I think she
Correct.
really believes that if one of the other Democratic, African-American Democratic candidates had stayed out of that
That's
race, she
probably
might
true.
have beaten Rashida.
It's probably
to
true,
lead,
but if my aunt had different parts, she'd be my uncle. I mean, what you've got here.
That's nothing I want to
is-
see on a T-shirt, Nolan.
What you've got here is someone who's detached from reality.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well.
she's not Mike Duggan in terms of her
No,
write-in.
no,
All right.
but she wants the votes to count.
And we're going to see what happens. I
Four of them.
cannot wait to see you next Thursday after the election
Yep.
so we can hash it all out. And that is going to do it for One Detroit from Kobo this week. We will be following the election on Tuesday. Have a complete breakdown for you coming up next Thursday on One Detroit. Find us on social media at One Detroit. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Christy McDonald. We'll see you next time. Take care.
MASCO Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. MASCO and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
I have a question. Who wants to go first? To win? Who wants to grow our business? Who wants to make more money? Who wants more job opportunities? If you want Michigan to compete and become a top 10 state, raise your hand. Together, we've turned Michigan around and started moving forward. Now help us build a stronger Michigan than ever. Raise your hand at strongermichigan.com.
Support also provided by the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, Detroit Journalism Engagement Fund, and the Bill and Shirlee Fox Fund for Leadership and Public Affairs Programming at Detroit Public TV.